Okay, thank you. We next have the National Rifle Association of New Zealand, so Mr. Dodson and Mr. Mason. As an association, we have 10 minutes with you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have 3 documents that I would like to place on record. One is the development of rules for the certification of rifle ranges for the National Rifle Association of New Zealand, the rules of certification for rifle ranges for New Zealand, and a copy of range standing orders. I also have 4 pages of photographs that show some of the firearms that we use on our ranges nationally.
Thank you.
My name, as you said, is Malcolm Dodson. I am the President of the National Rifle Association. The man on my right is Mr. Ross Mason, who is our Chairman. The shooting sport clubs in New Zealand provide the best and safest environment for people to be introduced to firearms and the associated safe handling practices that go with learning from experienced teachers. Ross and I have both been involved with secondary school shooting for over 25 years. The majority of the students that we have and train do not have a firearms licence as they are not old enough. They come to us as they want to learn how to shoot safely and accurately. All are encouraged by their parents as they place value on the training we provide. This proposed legislation will make providing this service much more difficult. Part 6 of the legislation deals with clubs, club ranges and their operation. This legislation that is proposed is not needed. There is no factual justification for the proposed heavy police oversight of the clubs of national shooting organisations. The police regulatory impact analysis, which formed the basis of these proposals, contains some statements that are not true at best and others that are wrong or misleading. To base legislation on these conclusions cannot provide good legislation. If the police wanted information about clubs and their operations, all they had to do was ask. Following the March shooting, clubs around the country were contacted by local police. The police at a local level had no trouble contacting clubs. The oversight and bureaucratic proposals look more like an empire building exercise than something that is driven by fact or need. Range certification. The bill proposes that police take over range certification. The police regulatory impact analysis estimate of the cost is $2,500 every 5 years. We do it now for our clubs at no cost. Our range safety template was developed in 2003 as a result of the Army closing the NRA home range at Trentham, which we have used since 1900. Our range safety template is an internationally peer-reviewed document which Army eventually accepted. The NRANZ template is now used worldwide as the standard range safety template for our type of shooting. It was used to develop the Commonwealth Games range in India, and it is currently being used in Australia in discussions with state governments. Registration and a licence to operate. The estimate of cost for registration in the police regulatory impact analysis is $500 the first time and a renewal fee of $800. Affiliation to a national shooting organisation means that shooting clubs are governed by the rules of the organisation and the Incorporated Societies Act. We propose that is sufficient. Range operators. The bill uses the term range operators. There is no clear definition in 38A of an operator. In a club, you have club officers, a president, a secretary, etc. In shooting clubs, you have range officers that control the range when shooting. We have a certification process for our range officers. They are tested and approved by NRA after being nominated by their clubs. We already have a process that is a higher standard of the fit and proper requirement. Registration. NRANZ does not support registration. Should registration be forced on us, a way needs to be found for club-owned firearms to be able to be used easily. All shooting sport organisations have club firearms. Our submission recommends all club members with a firearms licence be able to have possession of club rifles. Ammunition supply. To be able to use club rifles, we have club ammunition. The bill is aimed at retailers supplying people they don't know. We know who we are supplying. A specific number of rounds are used for a shooting match. Recording this usage is pointless and very time consuming on volunteers. There needs to be a very clear distinction made between clubs and commercial operations. The proposed fines through Part 6 of the legislation for club shooting and club ranges should be removed. Why would anyone want to be a club officer or official with that kind of fine over their head? It is hard enough getting people to take on responsibility in clubs without that sword over their head. Does this legislation also ride roughshod over the Incorporated Societies Act, which condemns officers of a club from prosecution? Shooting clubs in New Zealand provide a service by having a safe environment to use firearms, either casually, socially, or for serious competitors. nranz believes that Part 6 of this legislation and the estimated cost impositions will close clubs and these communities' facilities that they provide. If the shooting sports and the facilities they provide are to remain in this country, then the legislation needs to support us. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, because of the similarity in the name, can you explain to me, and just to make sure it's on record, the relationship, if any, and my understanding it's none, with the NRA and the US?
Absolutely none.
Great. Got that on record, which I wanted to make clear.
Our organisation was actually established in New Zealand by an Act of Parliament in 1878.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And the National Rifle Association of New Zealand name is one of a number of names that we have operated under. And these days we forever suffer from having the name which bears a large similarity to the NRA of America.
Yeah. No, it's just great to make sure that's clear for everyone in the room, so that we know
as you
that.
see from the pictures, our sport is long-range target rifle shooting. The objective of our sport is to hit a 250 millimetre diameter circle 900 metres away.
Great. Okay, thank you. I've got David and then Brett.
Hi, look, thank you. I want to thank you for making a lot of points that we've heard quite often around the impracticality of following these rules. And I think your point about the fines and the effect that might have on people taking up club membership officer positions is really important. But I just wanted to ask you something about, you said younger children using firearms. Now we've had...
I think I said younger children. I said students.
Students, okay. So we've had Gun Control New Zealand come and say that they feel that the children who are too young have been using firearms. But they also admitted that they had no practical experience with firearms. Since you do have some practical experience, could you just talk a little bit about, how young children can use firearms physically, and whether it's a good thing for them to gain skills and responsibility by being introduced as perhaps teenagers or even younger?
Generally, the programs that Ross and I are both running relate to secondary school age pupils. I'll be a bit rhetorical with the answer. Would you rather young people learn about firearms from us or from television?
Okay, I can go with that.
Okay.
I mean, the TV reporters in the room.
Yeah, well, that's where people get their education from, and that's where the perceptions about firearms come from. The first thing I find that I have to do, and I take a boys' college group, the previous speaker, Val Wadsworth, takes a girls' college group. The first thing I have to do is burst their bubble that they think they know everything about firearms and lower them a few pegs. And because they've fired a firearm twice, they certainly don't know what they're doing.
So kids learning about firearms from TV is actually a danger to society that you are helping to burst.
Well, it's all American TV that they use, but most of them have got absolutely no perception of what a damage a firearm can do.
Thank you.
Brett.
Thank you. Part 6. It's a pretty simple question, given the nature of your range, your procedures, your rules. Is there anything at all, in your opinion, in the additional rules and regulations in the proposed Part 6 that would in any way improve the safety of your members, visiting non-members, or the general public on your range or in your operations?
Long answer or short answer, because they both know.
So just to be clear, you see, because you've written it down, you can see additional cost on your club and range through those proposals, but you cannot see any tangible benefits to safety of anyone, members or non-members.
None at all. Our range rules, I had a look this morning on our NRA website, run to 36 pages. How is the regulations and the rules? I've tabled documents which cover some of our range certification. We already have pages and pages and pages of rules, which is exactly the same as every other national shooting sport organisation in this country. Our safety record is absolutely impeccable.
Thank you.
The people that should be asking the questions about their safety on ranges are actually the police. They were the last ones that shot themselves on the range. Perhaps we should be running their ranges for them.
Okay. Okay. Look, thank you for making that submission. Really appreciate you putting the submission and making the time to come and talk to us today. It's very valuable,
Thanks very much.
much appreciated.